Hello, everybody. It's me again. And the last time I did this, I talked about I guess, how I came to Korea and my very first impression of how I saw the city and everything. And and my first breakfast, which was Dunkin' Donuts or something like that, and my first meal, right? So, anyways, I'm going to get into a little bit more about my beginnings, especially with the training and things like that. Occasionally, you might see some videos pop up here and there to get you away from my face and to get you to see what Korea looks more like in general, from my perspective at least. And since I like to, since I do like to mess around with uh, DSLR cameras and editing software and stuff like that, you'll see a little bit of photos pop up, a little bit of my photo collection, and you'll get to see what some photos actually might be a little bit more exaggerated because I do things on more of an artistic scale for my personal viewing, but I mean, you can sit back and enjoy it if you want. Anyways, so basically, I came to this country, South Korea, and I started teaching in Seoul. And a little bit of a background here about Korea. It is South Korea, by the way. It's pretty big. Seoul is the biggest and the capital city in all of the country. And there's millions of people that live here. So a lot of the housing and things like that in big cities or major cities are kind of tight. There are some wide places, but Seoul kind of resembles pretty much like a kind of almost like a Tokyo, but a little bigger. It's not so much in your face or anything. Um, it's a bit conservative here. It's very conservative, and I'll be able to touch up a little bit on the conservative, you know, side of Korea, how it's like, and then of course where the liberal Korea is going, or I guess free thought, kind of. First off, the language Korean was it's actually called Hangul, by the way. It was founded by Wang Sejong or King Sejong, Sejong the Great. Those are some of the names that like roll off the bat. Um, and what he did was he created a language so that his people could be literate and actually have something to understand. Um, in this case, a good nation must be literate, and so I guess he called for his kingdom to learn the language. And of course, there's a lot of pride with a lot of historical characters, especially like Isun Shin, who is the who's a warlord many centuries ago or something, and he's pretty much an admiral of the sea. So um, a lot of a lot of the currency and things like that. A lot of the history values these two characters. I mean, of course, there's a lot more. There's a lot more characters out there, but of course, these are the ones that like are built and bust over the city hall landscape. So um, I'll go ahead and move forward. Anyways, um, so last time I talked about actually getting into Korea, and then now I'm going to talk a little bit more about my first week, my week of training, right? So after Monday, we woke up early. We got up and I talked about how we went to the training center, and when I first walked in, I noticed the water machine. It's like, oh, gotta get some water, right? And the water machine looks a little bit different from the American water machine. I mean, like the water fountain. It's built in the wall and it sticks out, and then you gotta press the little button, and a little bit of water comes up. In Korea, they use the kind of Ozarka type machine. It has its hot water and it has its cold or warm, whatever. Um, a lot of places tend to have gotten away from that, and they use this more, I guess, like super hot water machine with cold water, so that way like some people can get their coffee and some people can get like ice cold water, whatever they feel, right? A lot of these places have that, and and you'll see it in like restaurants and things like that. Like in Korean restaurants, they have this self-serving water machine, and you know, also in the same building, I noticed the Chinese classroom. So our company, Chengdom, teaches Chinese in the headquarters building, for what I know, and mostly, of course, English, right? So we got there were probably 100 or more of us. I don't know. I'm not too sure, but it was more than a few dozen people, and they split us up in these groups. I think there were 10, 12 or 15 groups of 4 or 5 teachers in training. So I guess you can do the math from there. um, After that, we got into these small groups. Well, first they gave us an orientation for the first day. They gave us a program scheme and everything, and they broke down the entire thing to us. And pretty much like what we don't remember, we went over. We kind of covered material that we had a chance to look over on our own. Likely, you can't. I think it was pretty good because you can't really rely on people to just read something and know it. You have to also explain it, right? So they talked about the history of the company and everything, and the structure, the program structure, and exactly what everybody would be having to do. But of course, they split up certain things, um, and what I mean by levels. So basically, the original Chengdom teachers will have to teach. They will have to teach in these kind of levels. There's 3 major levels, or maybe 4, or something like that. There's the memory level, then there's the interactive English level, and then there's kind of like an advanced level where um, students who have a higher proficiency in English, they will go there. And the proficiency level is kind of equivalent to like a third or fourth grader, almost fifth grader, sixth grader. So the students who are taking these classes have an English skill that is similar to what elementary school students encounter, at least them and early middle school students in America, right? So a lot of these kids, I feel, um, with the exception of speed, of course, because someone like me would speak like fast versus a Korean person who can follow the language slowly, but they can speak at their own speed. Um, a lot of these students, what I notice is that they have the ability to speak in English. They're pretty bilingual, but it all depends on that level, like that major level. A lot of kids who can talk a lot will tend to be in the middle or the higher range, and then the kids who like just don't speak at all or anything, they'll be at the lowest range, right? I mean, you'll have some students too who are in the middle ranges and things like that that won't speak, but for the most part, the majority of kids are made to be in those levels, right? So in the memory levels, it's all about, of course, like rote learning, things like that. I mean, like they do repetitive kind of learning. Everything seems very, um, everything is organized to be structured the same, but the topics are different. So basically, the elementary kids, they usually do stuff like this. And it also focuses on creative input. So, and the reason why we teach here, this program, I guess the reason why we teach here is to actually get the students to take the information they learn, digest it, and then bring it out in a creative sense. They have to make these kind of projects called CTPs. Um, it's actually funny because I used to be, I guess I was a wrestling fan and stuff like that, and I kind of incorporated the RVD thing. I mean, if you don't know who Rob Van Dam is, you can ignore what I'm saying right now. But usually when we got to the CTP, which is the critical thinking project, I would just go like CTP, and all my kids were like, originally they just looked at me like I was like dumb or something, right? But it's funny because like the next day later or something like that, they're all just following me. CTP. So, um, yeah, I'll get into my teaching style too a little bit also. So, one thing was one thing that I noticed was that like the students who are in the memory levels, especially the low levels, the first two, there's three levels actually in this kind of sub levels actually I want to say inside each level almost. So for the first three sub levels in the first level, memory, there's memory mega, giga, tera, almost like a memory card stick or something. So the memory kids have like the easiest thing. They have the easiest structure laid down for them, and then of course Giga it gets a little bit more advanced, but it just transitions a little bit until they get to Terra, and Terra's a little bit in between what you would consider intermediate and elementary. So of course the Terra kids are going to have a difficult structure compared to the Mega kids, right? But it's still all easy. Usually, when you're training, and when we trained in the giga. We trained in the middle of the lowest and highest of the memory levels, right? Then when we got to interactive English, which is like engulfing terms or something, bridge, par, and birdie, we trained in the birdie, or we trained in birdie in a new program, but we trained in par. I trained in par and giga when I first started. So they kind of put you in the middle of each of the levels, the two levels that you do. And of course, like for the advanced classes, they don't train in the advanced classes because they encourage management to put um, new teachers at that time. They encourage the new teachers to teach in the lowest levels first, like the levels that they trained in, so it'll be faster for them to teach, and then they can like, of course, on your free time, you're improving your style, your skills, your knowledge about the program, and then you're going to teach in the highest level. The highest levels, usually there's three. Most teachers will teach the albatross, albatross plus, and oh, sorry, there's an eagle after birdie. Sorry, so there's a after birdie there's eagle, albatross, albatross plus. So that's three interactive English levels, and after that, you will teach in the if I guess if you're experienced after like a few years or so, maybe a year. I mean, some teachers can dispute this by saying, "Oh, I had to teach it in my first 6 months." I guess if management trusts you enough, then you're probably going to teach like a master's class, and the master's is the highest level. It's the highest level obtainable by the students in the CDI program, right? So these are I've taught every class. By the way, I've taught every single kind of class, and I've taught more classes than most traditional CDI instructors. And I'll talk about the differences when I get into the differences between schools. You'll get to know a little bit more about like what classes I taught outside of the original structure. Um, First, my first thing was, you know, training was vicious. I feel like it was menacing. Like I used that word before, right? It was vicious, I say, because a lot of people that came to get this job, I'm not going to speak on everybody, but generally the people that I know, when they came to get this job, they got it because it was one of it was tough to get. Having to wait a year, a lot of people had to wait a year and process a visa. But people are trying to get a job that they can like. They're trying to get a job that they're curious about, and they're trying to get a job to hit those stepping stones and move forward. And some people use it as a chance to not just uh, learn about how to educate or learn about the education system, but to be in a different country and experience different cultures, things like that. So you get a lot of different kinds of experiences just by being here. And for the people like myself who also need a job, You need a job. You need to make money. Um, a lot of people found this as a way of living. For me, I found it as a primary way of living for the moment because it was very, being like I said before, I didn't have a home or money or regular job to keep me like grounded, and it. I didn't have a job that really supported me because some companies were only paying like pennies that I was working for. Even Microsoft was really holding out. They were more so awarding extra time rather than extra money. So pretty much worked for the Walmart of everything. And I never worked at Walmart before, but I'm sure that the pay was pretty equal at a time. But anyways, enough about that. When when I got into the training, a lot of the teachers, new teachers or teachers in training, their mentality was, I gotta get through this, right? I have to make it through this to get to where I want to go. We had a week. We came in a week and trained basically on what normal teachers would call week 13. But we trained in the headquarters, and again, there's a difference about what I'm seeing these days now, which I will get into a little later about how teachers train. And one thing about the training that I noticed is that it's fast paced. I mean, it's only 1 week, and the instructors who teach us, they are actually instructors themselves outside of that program. So we're pretty much getting taught from like maybe early in the morning, early a.m. in the morning, all the way until uh, maybe 3. I, I believe it was 2 or 3 p.m. And the reason for this is that that hour that that came after was was pretty much a time for the teachers to those instructors at least that were training us, they needed to prepare for their classes, right? And I will break down the time structure a little bit later, but basically what we did was when we first came in, the first day was the instructor was telling us about these books. Like they gave us the told us to look in the package, go to this page, and they told us what this part was for and what this part is for and what this part is for. So each class had a different level, and I had the middle levels, and I had to pretty much learn what each part was made for. For example, we had a I guess a brainstorming page, more like a flow chart of ideas, and the ideas were partially filled out, and we had to, of course, the students have to fill in the blank, but we have to know what they need to put in there, and we need to know, we need to know ahead of time. But they even let us know that if we're lucky, some of the books will already be filled out. So of course, when you're teaching the class, it's like you're not really um, you're not really figuring out the questions yourself because they're already there. But you need to know how to get those answers, and that's the most important part of any teacher is that you want to be able to know this without having to look in the book because we need to be experts in this kind of thing, right? And the funny thing about it was, to be honest, I feel I feel so lucky to know these kind of things naturally, but knowing it like in that manner, from the teacher's perspective, it's a whole lot different from when you're a child. I mean, I feel like no matter what you tell me before, no matter what you could have told me before about English, whether it's literary devices or anything like that, I just kind of skip right past it. My mind is somewhere else. I'm not really even thinking about, um, you know, prepositions, and I'm not even thinking about, well, conjunctions I think about all the time. I always make sure that when I'm writing, I always have, punctuations right and things like that. But we're talking about like the basics of reading comprehension. I mean, looking at keywords and things like that, and you know, uh, looking for main ideas and details. I mean, these kind of things came natural to us, but I don't really think about it the way that we're supposed to teach it. So basically, everything was like made in translation. So we're basically breaking it down into the elementary standpoint where even the child or person who don't even understand what the meaning of a main idea is can understand it. So they gave it to us in a way that we can explain it to anyone, right? And it was pretty neat. And then they told us that we have to actually do mock teaching, right? And a lot of people were, this is the scary part because a lot of people don't really like to put themselves out there, but we had to. We've flown like dozens of hours out to this country, and nobody wants to really turn back, right? I don't think anyone did, or maybe some few, but nobody really wants to go back. You know, oh, I'm going to be gone for a year is what you tell your friends and family, and then you come back like the next week because you just didn't pass or you just couldn't handle it. I never really met anyone like that through with my company or anything, but there has been people like that. I mean, there have been people like that in Korea, but they just haven't been through this kind of training. And I feel like the good thing about training in the headquarters is that you get that sense, that adrenaline, right? That sense of do or die, and that's the thing that's kind of missing with some other schools where I've been in some other schools where I've seen teachers, they will come in and then they will learn how to do everything just by shadowing. They come in and they receive a few instructions. This is what you do, this and this and this. They get everything there, and then the next week they start working, right? But usually the ones who are training, uh, they're kind of in there with the students. For us, we don't see any students. We did see some students at times when we've stayed for a while, and then they just come in, and the teachers or they just start their day, right? But for the most part, we never saw our own students. A lot of us didn't see our own students or anything. So we never really had to feel like, oh man, like man, they're gonna see us, they're going to judge us before we even start, right? Um, so we didn't really get into that, but we did have the critiques, the teachers telling us like, or the yeah, when I mean teachers, I mean the trainers, right? They're telling us how good we're doing or how bad we're doing. Most of it's like how bad we're doing. And I like when I look back at myself when I was actually in there, I didn't know anything. Like I was like, man, I don't know anything. Like for me, like the only way I can keep up is by taking notes. So I just took a lot of notes and I just looked back at it like a few times and then I try to understand it. Mostly I learned from making mistakes, right? So I made a lot. Like I saw the other day a video of me like when I was first teaching, and it was like just me staring in the book. I feel like I was too attached to the book. And the funny thing is now that I'm a trainer, um, I see myself in a lot of other people. So I'll get into that kind of thing too. But I will also speak from a trainer's perspective as well. So be prepared for that. Anyways, what the trainers saw in me was basically this guy's kind of slow, and I saw a lot of people like from my eyes moving faster than me. Like it was kind of weird because when it comes to more technical, independent things, I'm really good at that. Like I can learn how to do something on my own, and I did take advantage of that after the training. I felt like because I was in this new place, I didn't know much of anything. The only thing I did know more than others was the language. Like I was catching on to the language faster because I had 6 months of like Korean learning uh, before I even came out here. Back when I was back in like 2005, and for some reason or some way I retained that information pretty much almost to perfection. Like there were only a few small things I couldn't remember, but like the things that I did learn, I remembered. And I was able to get around much easier. I was able to read things much faster, and I was able to lead people. But when it came to actually like training, I was super slow. It was just like kind of like when I was in the military. I wasn't really the fastest learner um, because for me, I like to actually do things. I don't really want to sit there and learn anything unless I'm enthusiastic about being in that environment. There's some things that I can just like if it's Japanese class, okay, I'm just gonna sit down and start learning. I can do that. If it was like history class, I can sit down and I can easily do that. But like new things, it takes me time and I want to be good at it. I want to take my time, but in the fast paced environment, like this kind of training thing and in comparison to the military thing, it took a while. Like the first month, both things that I've ever done was quite rocky, right? But the thing is, I got through it, and I remember my last day. I tried to like I winged everything. I tried to appear confident and everything, and uh, you know, along the way, I actually had like some people tell me like. Oh, you did good. They're encouraging me, but I feel like I didn't do good enough, in the training. But I had some people tell me like, oh, you did better than me. You know how to write. You know how to do this, and I mean, there were some teachers, believe it or not, who couldn't spell some of the basic words. Some of them couldn't write that good on the board. Some of them couldn't appear confident. Some, like each person had their thing. We had one guy who did very well. I feel like he was the all rounder, and you always have that kind of one person that does good, that just does it. And it was like I was like, dude, you must have been doing this for a while. He was like, it was my first time too, So I was like, shoot, I don't know. He's the natural. But those kind of people, they know how to talk to people. But I was like, well, I know how to talk to kids and stuff, so I gave it a try. And then my final mock teaching thing, um, I tried to bring the energy and stuff like that. I try to memorize the page because for me, memorizing things is a lot better than learning things in a way where I just have to know it, right? So I started just memorizing it, and then I started to try to know it a little later. And that's my thing. Like I try to know what's important right now, but it's not as important as presentation, right? So I got through that, and then I try to make the effort to understand every single thing and every day. And on the Saturday, which wasn't a training day, they just told us, okay, make sure you pack up. We got into a hotel actually. I want to apologize about like not having any pictures of like the hotel and stuff. Like I did have a video, but it's all missing. Like I don't know, one of my hard drives broke, and in the process of moving my pictures and videos, I think one folder, which was all of the videos from my original camera when I first came here, all of those are gone. And I didn't take any pictures of the hotel when I first came. I could probably go and like take pictures there later and show you what it looks like. But all those videos are gone. Like I have absolutely no videos from my Sony NEX camera. So it's kind of sad. Yes, I know. But anyways, we packed up from a hotel. It was a 3 bedroom, um, and it was me and the guy from Greece. Like somehow we ended up together. Like I guess they just knew we were both from Texas. We are both coming in at the same time. Put these guys together. The third person never showed up. I don't know if there was a third person or if it was just an empty bed. Um, but it was just us in the room, and we packed up. Every day we saw each other. He was always on Skype talking to his girlfriend, and me, I was just like, I'm just going to sleep. Like I just kind of studied the material, go to sleep, and I shower. Just shower every day. I was kind of To be honest, I was kind of scared to shower at first because I don't know. I know that the whole country's surrounded by water pretty much, but the reason why is because when I was in Dallas, I was diagnosed with some kind of allergy to water, and I guess it depends on the water really, what's in the water because uh, when I shower in Texas, I tend to get little bumps and things, and my skin is actually kind of really clear. My forehead's clear, but if you see me in like my old pictures and stuff, you'll see like I had a lot of bumps, and for some weird reason, like I like showering. Um, when I was a kid, I was afraid of water. I don't know. My mom told me that, but I don't know. Like I just shower, stay. I try to stay clean as much as possible. But the doctor was like, "You're allergic to water. You need to stop showering." But I was like, I don't like the smell. I don't like the, you know, I don't like to be dirty. But it came at a cost. So my friend, well, me actually, told my friend like, "Look, man, I'm probably not gonna shower for a few days. So I hope just let me know if I smell, and I'll try to clean up." But I just took a shower every day. I just like whatever. When I got to Korea, of course, I didn't have any problems with the water. Like I just took a shower and it was fine. Like I was okay. I don't know. And then I got to anyways, going back. I the got to the bus with my bags. We packed our bags and everything, put our names on it, labeled everything, put things on this kind of moving van. They took the moving van and moved all of the bags, so we didn't have to carry our bags on the bus or anything. We just put it all in this truck, and it was kind of small. I was like, "This is a small truck." And the thing about Korea versus America is they don't have any F-150s or nothing like that. They don't have expedition or what is it? I don't know, explorers, or they don't have SUVs like we have in Texas. Like there's very few SUVs. A lot of the SUVs may be imported, but you rarely ever see them. You only see like small cars everywhere. If you see trucks, they're almost as big as the American car. The American sedan. So I was quite surprised. Anyways, we got into the we got into this van, or not van, bus, and we traveled back up to the school together. And because usually we took a subway, but instead this time we took a van, and we waited in the room. Like I believe we waited in the room. We asked our final questions. We went through this final orientation thing, and then they told us to go to our classrooms and wait. And I remember doing a kind of presentation. I think we had to do like a final mock or something like that. And then after the final mock was done, which was like it was like a speed thing, like everybody sped through the mock. Each person did a page, and then I went to the restroom. I was like, I gotta go to the restroom. I came back and they already decided if we passed or failed, and they were like, I met Mr. Benjamin, and he was like, "You passed." I was like, "Oh shoot!" I was happy. When I came in, I saw people like just relieved, and I was like, "What's going on?" And they told me I passed. So I was like, "Oh, that's why everybody looks like this." So everybody's like, "Oh, you passed. You passed. Where you going?" And they had our like location on there and where we're going, and um, then they told us like, well, this is it, everybody. Vans are coming to take people over, and they had some vans that a lot of the vans that were there, they they were supposed to escort the teachers directly to the schools. So we got into the vans, things like that, and put our stuff, our bags in there, and then for me, it was me and another teacher, another guy, the guy that was telling you that did awesome. So we packed up and to we went to our school. And the funny thing about this guy was that, by the way, his name is Evan. What's up, Evan? Um, the thing about Evan was like he wasn't very talkative. I think he was like, down to business kind of guy. Like he was just getting through it. Everybody else was pretty social. Like me, I didn't consider myself to be social too much before this whole Korean thing, but I was like, well, all my family's back at home, so I might as well just like start talking to people, and I did. And then, so I just tried to talk to different people. There were people from like South Africa, Australia, Ireland. What's that, John? Um, you know, People from other states, of course. It's not just people from Texas, right? So, London. Anyways, I try to make the effort to talk to different people, and then I got to our place. Like we talked a little bit, me and this other new guy, and then we made it to our area of the city, and he was like, I pretty much like he was like, I pretty much feel like I can do this teaching thing. The only thing that I'm kind of like scared about is the location. Like I don't know, maybe I'm gonna get lost or something. So I was like, we can go together if you want. Like we started walking around a bit. Um, Maybe for we hung out for a while, and we actually let me go back because before we started hanging out, we went to our school, right? So let me talk about that first. We went to our school, which is in Gwangjin. It's its major landmarks are the Olympic Bridge, which is called Olympic Daegyo, I believe. Um, the other is Technomart. Technomart is one of the biggest major landmarks there. Sejong University is also in Gwangjin. It's actually one of the universities I tried to go to. Sejong University is there of Gwangjin, and it's like right in the middle of Seoul. It's I believe north of the Han River or Hangang. It's north of the Han River, and it's across from Gangnam, like diagonally across. Gangnam's like kind of below the other side. And yeah, we got in our building, and the first thing we did was the guy took us upstairs and everything. He took our bags. So, like he told us not to worry about our bags actually, which was cool. Um, but we took our I took my backpack up there. Like we took our backpacks up, and then we went up to upstairs, and we thought that we were going to go over some of the material again, but they were just like, "Hey, hello, how you doing?" And it's the new teacher, and we saw like kids, like there were kids on Saturday just there, and then they were curious, so they came to meet us. They didn't really come to meet us; they just came to see who we were because they didn't know if we were going to be their teachers or whatever. They're just like, "Oh, it's new teachers," and they knew some other teachers left, so like they were just kind of like they just assumed we were new, and they just kept staring at us. They didn't really say anything, but we were like, how many other foreign teachers work here? They're like, there's some more. But, what we found out was when I met the new teachers, I met a girl, Elizabeth, which is kind of funny because when I first saw this girl, I thought that I thought she was my old classmate. I was like, shoot. I mean, not saying that that Korean people look the same, but there's always somebody who looks just like you or something, right? So I was kind of like, oh shoot, I was kind of scared because I was like, uh, I don't know. So, anyways, I was like, dang, is that you? Like, I didn't want to ask like anything, but I was just kind of surprised, and then she was kind of like really, a really rough person, I guess. I was like, not really like mean or anything. She was just like kind of like, um, I don't know. She just hey, who are you? Where are you from? Like that. And I was like, okay. And then the others, they seemed pretty cool. They were just like, hey, welcome. And it was like that. Um, just kind of like going to a new job or something, people just like, hey, I'm blank, I'm so and so. So I met a guy who's also from Texas. He said he went to Arlington, uh, UT Arlington. He's from Austin. I was like, man, I'm from those parts too. And then, we talked for a bit, and then that was it. And the other guy, he shook their hands and everything, and uh, they invited us out to the club or to go. They actually didn't invite us to go out to a club. They invited us to go out and go to this party town. They were like, "Do you want to go to Hongdae?" I was like, "What? What is that?" And they're like, "Tonight we're gonna go to Hongdae. It's like kind of a party city or something like that." So I was like, "Sure, why not?" I don't know anything, so I could go out there. And the other guy was like, "Yeah, I can go," but I think he was feeling the effects of jet lag or something because he couldn't stay awake. Like later on, he fell asleep or something. But we got invited. They got our numbers. They were kind of surprised by like how I got my phone number because actually I had a borrowed phone that I picked up from the airport, so I had a phone number right off the bat for the first few months from May to November. I had a phone number for myself. It was quite expensive to have, but they were like, since you're making a lot of money, you can have this phone. First, they gave me some weird discount and stuff, so I don't recommend using a borrowed phone or anything to anybody. Um, but I was given a different price before, and then they just jacked up the price. So I was just like, and it wasn't a Korean company. It was more like an American or something like that running the company in Korea. So of course they're gonna jack the price up on you over a few, course of few months and stuff like that. Give you all the hidden fees and charges, but really Korean companies don't charge a lot too much for their phone. It's either on par with the American service or it's lower, right? Depends on you. So, anyways, we got to the new place and the teachers was like, "Hey, what's up?" And then they left, and they seemed pretty tight. They seemed like they were pretty tight. It was I believe I met was it one is Liz and Vicky and Kenny. Like I met these teachers by that name, right? So it was like okay, there was basically they were all Korean American. Like for me, I was like, there's still nobody like me, which in turn there was somebody just like me in a way, but she didn't come until a little later, right? She I guess she was out of the country or something like that. But when we finished meeting the teachers and everything, we asked the branch manager, should we stay here and prepare for our classes? And he was like, nope, go. We're gonna go to your apartment next. So I was like, oh, okay. And then we went to the apartment, and it was it took us a little bit. We got lost. We were running in this huge circle or something. But the funny thing was that the apartment was only about like a few meters away. Like it was like 2 minutes or so. Like a 2 minute walk straight from the school to the apartment. So we were like laughing because we were like, dude, we passed this side the whole time because we kept walking around this little park. There was this little, kids park or something like that. Um, yeah, so we laughed it off a bit and then we went up the stairs and they said, okay, Evan has 202, second floor. And when I noticed the apartment, I was like, wow, that's pretty big. And he was like, the manager's like, yep, okay. So he told him go in there and check out his apartment. I looked in it a bit. I didn't really walk in, but I noticed that he had a big square room, kind of like the one I'm in right now. It was about the same size here. The thing was that his restroom was like so small, right? Kind of as small as my place is. My place was different. Like when we got upstairs, I was on the fourth floor, so I'm like walking up the stairs. The guy who drove the car, he still had our bag, so he's like bringing them upstairs. There's another guy in the shop nearby. He came up the stairs as well because when I got in, I noticed that there was a bed. Excuse the clicks here, but I'm going to go ahead and start. uh, my little thing. I noticed before I walked in. Sorry, I saw lock on my door. A lock. Okay, and this lock is a key lock, like electronic key lock. I was like blown away because I remember when I was like 9 or 10 years old or something like that, and we went to this hardware store when I was a kid, me and my grandmother, and I looked at my grandmother. I said, one day I want to have that on my door because I asked her what is it, and she's like, oh, it's for like a house, but you need to instead of using a key, you have to press the numbers. And I was like, we got to get that. But she was like, we live in an apartment. We can't change our door, our thing. And I was like, oh, when can I get one? How can we get one? She's like, you have to live in your own house to get it. I was like, man, I want to get that. I'm going to have that one day. She's like, you get it one day. And then it happened. I mean, you got to remember, man, the environment that it came from is very just plain and nothing. You know, I didn't live in a house that was fit for us or anything. Um, it was apartment living all the time. You know, moved from one place to another because it's getting more expensive to stay. So like, you know, we didn't have like the luxury of living in our own place and dictating what goes on the door or not. Um, but anyways, this was new. This was like, oh, I don't need a key, and I was happy because I hated having to carry a key around in my pocket. The possibility of losing your key, so you have to put it under the door. Sharing a key, oh my god, that stuff was annoying. You know, I hated it. We opened the door and I noticed. I thought my apartment was going to be the same as Evan's, but my apartment instead was a triangle shape. It was much smaller. My space was small enough to like touch the walls with both hands. I'm just kidding. Not that small, but it was like kind of weird, right? So the first thing I noticed is that my window is about as tall as me, and as tall as the door back here, except it was just off the ground a bit, right? I looked to the right and I saw a refrigerator that was much smaller than Evan's, but I saw kitchen space that was longer than his, and I had a laundry machine in the middle. I was like, laundry machine in the middle? Is it also a dryer? He's like, no, it's just a washing machine. You don't need a dryer. I was like, I don't need a dryer. I need to dry my clothes. He was like, um, not in Korea. It's too much energy. You could just put your clothes on this rack. Like you put it on the rack, and then he told me that like you just leave it out to dry. Right. So I was I had to adjust finally to a style like that. But he said, don't worry about that because clothing dries fast. Like it dries in like, you know, in hours. And also there's a benefit to drying your air drying your clothes. I mean, I was so used to drying my clothes in the machine, but air drying your clothes, I think I'm going to do that for the rest of my life because, or at least I'm going to try to do it for the most of the time I dry my clothes for the rest of my life because the benefit is that the clothes don't some of the clothes that you have won't shrink more. You know, the dryer is kind of hot, so it causes some clothes to shrink more. Of course, you get your clothes dry on the spot, right? You can just fold it up and leave. That's if you're at a center. But if you're at your house, just air dry it, right? I mean, your clothing, it doesn't fade your clothing and stuff like that. I have clothes that last for so long now. Like, I was always wondering why my clothes are fading. You know, I was stupid. You know, I mean, I knew how to wash my clothes and stuff, but I just didn't know why certain things happen. I just didn't care. And I mean, like me, even my style, it doesn't really matter if my clothes faded or not because I still wear like crappy shirts. Like, well, this shirt's not really crappy, but you know this collar's kind of messed up. You know, after all the years of drying, of course, and things like that. So notice that I'm wearing my UTD senior shirt. I'm not even in UTD anymore. Uh, the school I graduated from. So we made it to our apartment. And I noticed how new it looked. Right, it looked so new. Like it looked awesome. Inside the floor, you can lick it. You know, it just looked like it was built yesterday. The whole, just like when I came to where I am right now in Cheongju. But we're talking about 3 years and 3 months ago. Um, I mean, everything looked so clean and new. The bed was still in the box. It was like a small little square box. The guy opened the box and like started working on the hardware guy. He started working on the bed, and he built it immediately. I was amazed. And at the same time, I wondered what my restroom looked like. I walked in there, and I noticed how big it was. It was, for me, huge. It can fit like one person can sit on the toilet, one person can wash their face, one or two people can use the shower because it used two different heads. It used the portable head, and it used the which was supposed to be it was supposed to be like the free falling water thing, the regular faucet thing, but they screwed in the portable shower head where you can move it around and behind you. And then they had like the rain shower. Like I had this huge square above me that just dropped water like it was raining. It was freaking awesome. I haven't had anything like that. I can have both heads running at the same time. So I'm just like, just I'm clean faster, like I was like, oh, I can just like, wet myself, shower up, soap myself up, one time, get soapy, let the water fall on me, turn around, spin around, or don't even have to do that. Just get the water and clean myself, and then that's it, right? Get another lather ready, and then just get that last dirt part of the dirt off, and then let the water fall again, and I'm done, right? It was quite simple. And then I, I was uh, I was kind of scared about a few things, but the first thing before I get into like my little fears, the first thing was the money, and the second thing was what was it? The bills, things like that, because I didn't like paying bills, and even so, I had some boxes already waiting for me, and there was this company that kind of like they were fishing. Like I didn't know they were fishing, but they sent me some stuff because they wanted me to order something. They said that the company um, that they were part of the company or something, and I was asking them, and they were like, "Yeah, we're part of this company," but they weren't. So like they kind of lied. So one of my advices to give to people before I end this video is never buy anything before you go to Korea as far as like the things that you need. Don't buy necessities, Korean necessities at least. Don't buy Korean necessities before you go. Wait until you get to Korea first and then find out what you need before you buy anything. Don't pre-order anything. Just the only thing you should pre-order is a transformer box. I'll show you what it looks like a little later, but you should only pre-order a transformer box. Um, so for as far as the money, we got into our apartment. I got shown how to use certain things, the appliances, the air conditioning. It was super hot at the time that we got there. It was super humid. Like it just blew up. After training, it just seemed like the heat season came in, the heat wave. So that day, we were told how to use the AC. I learned how to use it, and I undid my boxes. Even though my manager was like, "Why did you buy this stuff?" I was like, "I thought I needed it." So it gave me less to shop for, but of course it was super expensive, and I don't recommend it. Like I was just like, I gotta pay this back, and it was weird. The same company that held the phone for me and stuff like that. So I definitely won't recommend it because it could cost you more than what it would cost you in the store, and then plus more. Like they like triple charged me. I was like, nah, I'm not gonna pay. You pay yourself. You got your money. Don't call me again. Okay, you got your money. So, anyways, I asked about the money. I told you in the last video, or I said that okay, so now that we have our apartment, uh, do I have to pay like a deposit or rent money right now? Because I have it. And then he was like, my branch manager, he was all like, nope, you don't have to pay anything. I was like, really? He was like, yes. I double checked. I triple checked. I was like, oh, so what can I do with my money? He was like, you do whatever you want with it. And I was like, oh, okay. So when do I get paid? Here's the thing. The school that I taught at paid us on time, and I mean, all the schools paid us on time, but they paid us that month because we're hourly. We get paid for every hour that we worked. and then we get paid. The other schools that are salary don't really pay like that. They pay you on the second month. We got paid on the first month we worked. So that was awesome, right? So I could spend a little money. I was kind of scared to spend anything, so I still had my money for a while, like a long time. So I was just like, okay, now I can buy food. Now I can go out and buy stuff. Again, I started experimenting with food because I didn't know what was what. Everything was in Korean. Like I can recognize the characters, but the meanings meaningless to me, right? I didn't quite know anything. So I got my money together and I started like, I'm gonna buy a little bit of this and a little of that. And then, I started making the effort to try to ask what is certain things and, so that I can buy it and eat it without the fear of eating something that could kill me, Um, and that was pretty much it. That was my first date. I mean, actually, afterwards, me and the new guy and I, we went out and we ate a little bit at this like Korean restaurant that was near us, and we thought like, oh, I told him like, I don't know, we just called it the Japan flag place, like it's Japanese, like it wasn't even Japanese or nothing. It just the color of the banner looked like a Japanese flag, so we just referred to it as the Japanese flag place. I knew that the place was 24 hours just by looking at that little green circle, and we ate there. It was kind of funny because we didn't even know anything. um, we just like raised our hand and like, excuse me, and this and that, and um, you know, ordered things randomly. We're like, oh, beef, you have beef, and things like that. But when it came down to it, we got the receipt a little later, so I was able to read like exactly what it was. So that meant like I can order later if we came back, and we did. There was sogogi, which is quite expensive, but not that expensive. Like we were surprised at how cheap it was if we both bought it. Originally, we thought that we were supposed to pay separately, but we actually paid together the same price. We combined our funds to pay for what they wanted. So like, it became kind of cheap, right? Um, and then it was funny because we looked at one character that said soju, and he's like, "What is this? The tax? It's kind of cheap." I was like, I don't see any tax. That says soju on it." And he was like, "Oh, yeah, because he bought soju." So I thought that was pretty funny. But yeah, we ate some Korean food, and that was pretty much it. Right. So that was our kind of first day there, and then afterwards we went out for the weekend, or I went out for the weekend. The other guy fell asleep, like I said, he fell asleep or whatever. So I didn't see him that night, but I got in touch with the other teachers, and we went out to Hongdae, and it was a pretty crazy experience, which I will be talking about a little later. Um, I will talk about like the party places and stuff like that in summary. But after this, going through the training and getting to the school, I think I will talk about the schools a little bit and um, the environment of Seoul in general. So everything will be like summarized to a point from I guess beginning to end, even though I'll still be talking about, or at least referencing my first week and you know the general uh, the general environment of teaching in Seoul. All right. Anyways, it's been almost an hour, and I think I talked a little bit more than usual. So I guess this will be all. But if you tune in next time, I'll talk about what I just said. I will. And if there's anything else, of course, if there's anyone with any kind of questions or something, of course, you can always ask it, and I'll answer your questions during my video. All right. Anyways, take care and have a good day.